Hello and welcome. In this video segment we will work through step 8 through 13 of tutorial 1. These steps will demonstrate how to machine the outside contour, backplot the toolpath, modify existing toolpaths, verify toolpaths, and then post the file to create CNC code. Let's start on step 8. Contour the outside profile. I'm going to move up to the top of the screen and select toolpaths, and then next I'm going to pick contour toolpath. The prompt, select contour chain 1. I'm going to move over to the graphics screen and select this left vertical line at the top. As you can see, the arrow is pointing in the correct direction. This is the direction I wish to contour the part. If it had the reverse direction, if you move over to the left at the bottom of this dialog box, you can reverse it. So my direction is looking great. I'm going to select the OK button. Next, we're going to select a tool. We're going to use a 1/4 inch diameter flat end mill. First of all, I'm going to move down to the bottom of this screen and select Library Tool. Next, I'm going to select the Filter button. And then moving over to the left in the Tool Types area, first of all, I'm going to select None to disable the tools. And then moving up to the top left corner, I'm going to select the Straight End Mills. Moving over to the right in the tool diameter section, if I open up this drop down menu, we've got several options here, but I'm going to leave it to equal, and the dimension 0.25, that's going to stay as is. Moving on down to the bottom, I'm going to select the OK button. As you can see, we've filtered out a 1/4 inch flat end mill. I'm going to select this end mill. This is the one that we're going to use, and then hit the check mark. Back in the tool parameters page, you can see tool 3 is selected. I'm going to move on over to the right and change the length offset to 3, and then moving on down, I'm going to put in a comment. Contour the profile. Let's move on to the next page, contour parameters. Starting at the top, I'm going to turn the clearance on. I'm going to leave it at 2 inches and it's set to absolute. Moving on down, there's a check mark against retract. It's set at 2.5 and it's also in absolute, so that looks good. My feed plane is an incremental and it's set to 0.1, so that's great. Moving on down, top of stock is set to 0 and it's in absolute. For the depth, I'm going to change it to -0.5. Moving on to the bottom right hand corner of this dialog box, you can see there is a check mark against lead in, lead out. I'm going to click on this button, and as you can see, we have entry checked and exit checked for our lead in and lead out. Everything looks good here, so I'm going to go down to the bottom, select OK, and also select OK here as well. Now in step 9, we're going to backplot the toolpath. So moving over to the left here, what I'm going to do is select toolpath group, and you can see now there is a check mark against the 3 operations: center drill, drill, and the contour operation. I'm going to move up to the top and select the backplot option. Now In the Backplot dialog box, I have my display tool turned on and also display rapid moves. Let's move on up to the top now and get an isometric view, and I'm also going to do a screen fit. Let's select the play button and you can see our hole's been center drilled, and then contoured. Everything looks good here, so I'm going to move over to the left and hit the check mark for Backplot. Let's move on now to step 10. What we're going to do is modify this toolpath to add 2 depth cuts, 2 roughing passes and 1 finish pass. Moving over to the Toolpath Manager, I'm going to select Parameters in the Contour operation. As you can see, I'm on the Contours Parameters page. Moving on down to the bottom of this screen, I'm going to put a check mark against multi-passes and depth of cuts. Next, I'm going to move into multi-passes by pressing on the button. Moving over to the left in the multi-passes dialog box. For roughing passes, I'm going to change that to 2. The spacing I'm going to leave at 0.1. Finish passes I'm going to leave at 0, but the spacing I'll change that to 0.02. Moving on down in the area for machine finish passes at, I'm going to change it from all depths to final depth. And one last thing here, I'm going to put a check mark against keep tool down. Everything's complete. I'm going to hit the OK button and then move on over to the right and click on depth of cuts. Now for my maximum rough set, it's set at 0.5. I'm going to change that to 0.25. Moving on down, I've got number of finish cuts 0, finish step 0.05. I'm going to keep that as is. My depth cut order is set to my contour, so everything's looking good here. I'm going to move on down, pick OK. I'm going to select the OK button to exit. Now what we have to do is, you can notice there is a red cross against this last operation. What I'm going to do is move on up and select the Regen All Dirty Operations. And you can see now that that red mark has disappeared. We've regenerated successfully. Let's move on now to step 11, and what we're going to do is verify. I'm going to move on over to the top here and select all operations, and as you can see there's a check mark against all 3 operations. I'm going to move over to the top and select the verify selected operations. First of all, what I'm going to do is select the config button down at the very bottom here. Some of the things that I just want to check out, as you can see, my stock shape is a box and I'm using my stock setup values. Moving on down to the bottom left, I'm going to change tool color. I'm going to turn that on so each tool picks up a different color. Everything looks good here, so I'm going to go down to the bottom and hit the OK button. I'm just going to reposition my dialog box. Now the speed. This slider bar I'm going to move into the middle, and now select the play button. And as you can see, it's roughing and finishing our contour with the 1/4 inch diameter end mill. If you wish, you can move over and move the slider bar to the right to speed up the operation. And everything looks great. I'm going to go down to the bottom of the Verify dialog box and hit the check mark. Let's move on up and save our file. Everything's looking good. And next, what we'll do is move on to step 13, the final step of this video, and post the file. As you can see, we have all 3 operations check marked. What we're going to do now is create the CNC code by picking the Post Selected Operations button at the top. When this next window comes up, there's nothing I need to change here. I'm using the default post MP fan. Everything's looking good. I'm going to go down the bottom, hit the OK button. For the name of my file, I'm going to type in Tutorial 1 and then click Save. And finally, my CNC code appears on the screen. This is the end of this video segment. Thanks for watching.